In this video, you're going to see the future.
Not everyone is trying to win a popularity contest. Case in point, this guy.
I don't think that popularity is something he's interested in. He's interested in effectiveness.
I gotta give it up.
His airtime, so to speak, is only a tool to achieve what his greatest aspiration is, which is to have a positive impact in the world.
You should look at, what was your goal? How are you trying to uplift nutrition and survival and literacy?
He is influential, A, because of his vast fortune and the way he made it by creating a new segment of the computer market, but also that he's since then chosen to deploy the money he's made to try to completely alter the landscape of world health.
This year, his net worth reached as high as $120 billion.
These two have donated more money to charitable causes than anyone ever.
He's a multi-dimensional individual. He has great depth in so many different areas. I guess you'd call him a polymath.
William Henry Gates III was born in Seattle, Washington in 1955.
He was a terrible child. Bill Sr. gave a whole interview to the Wall Street Journal about just how difficult he was, how much trouble he gave his mother, just, yelling, screaming, tantrums, things like that.
At the ripe age of 13, the problem child wrote his first software program, a tic-tac-toe game, on the teletype Model 33 ASR teleprinter. 8 years later, he dropped out of Harvard to start a computer software company with his best friend Paul Allen called Microsoft.
In co-founding Microsoft, what Bill Gates and Paul Allen did was essentially create the personal computer software market that's since then been worth hundreds of billions of dollars.
This is Jeff Rakes. He's known Bill for quite some time now.
I was at Microsoft from 1981 to 2008, and Bill was completely committed to the vision that we could help put a computer on every desk and in every home running great software. And that's the impact that he wanted to have, and he was completely focused in on that.
Now, such determination does require a strong personality. And it's safe to say that his subordinates could probably relate to his parents at that point.
He was a very tough manager. People had these sort of terrifying Bill Gates reviews of their products and features. And if he didn't like what you said, he would, he was known for responding with the words,
"Well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." But the good news is, you won't hold the record for long.
Seattle's Bill Gates, with $4.2 billion, is the second richest person in the country.
What is this? It's Microsoft Excel. Now hold still, I'm about to perform a miracle.
My spreadsheet doesn't do that.
Microsoft became such a juggernaut that the following decade, they were sued for being a monopoly.
If you look at that point in the year 2000, Microsoft is in serious antitrust trouble. And the view of Bill at that time was terrible. And people viewed him as a sharp-elbowed monopolist, essentially.
Not that he cared about what the world thought of him, but it was around this time that Bill decided to start listening to his parents.
I do remember in the early days of Microsoft, his mother pressing young Bill to get involved with United Way and philanthropy, and Bill's response was, "Mom, I'm trying to build this company. I don't really have time for that." And I think over time what he learned is, in the same way that he could leverage his intellectual energy on behalf of Microsoft, he could do it on behalf of philanthropy.
While in the midst of this antitrust suit, Bill and his wife Melinda donated $16 billion worth of stock to charity in 1999. The following year, he poured $5.1 billion in cash to create the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
At this point, I think many people much more closely associate him with programs that have saved lives and, increased immunizations in the developing world. That's much more the popular view of Bill at this point, that sort of philanthropist and not the monopolist, so to speak.
So you can avoid lots of diseases if you've been properly vaccinated.
Today, the foundation is the world's largest charity. Its fingerprint is on almost every global health initiative of the last 20 years and has spent over $40 billion on global development and public health programs.
Yes, they deploy financial resources, but they also use their voice, the networks of influence and support that they have. So in many ways, it represents one of the key concepts that we learned in software. It's about leverage. What Bill wants, what Melinda wants with the foundation is to be able to make those financial investments and leverage them to have the greatest possible impact.
By using this approach to philanthropy, the foundation provided seed money to the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. Their implementation of immunizations in the developing world has contributed to a dramatic drop in the overall child mortality rate since 1990. Bill also made it his personal mission to eradicate polio from the planet, something he has come very close to achieving. Then, of course, there's Bill's noblest pursuit of all.
I want to talk to you today about toilets.
Many people would say, well, why get involved in toilets and how does that matter? But that, actually kind of diving into that explains a bit about how Bill thinks about things. If you want to reduce the disease burden, you're going to have to improve sanitation. If you're going to improve sanitation, you're going to have to invent a new way to go about it, one that doesn't require all of the water that we use today. So it's a great example of how he thinks in terms of the broader system and looks for technological innovations that can really make a difference.
This push to improve sanitation worldwide has led to the invention of the Omniprocessor, a low-cost human waste treatment plant with a beta version currently in use in Dakar, Senegal.
I am very impressed with this solution we're seeing here. It generates electricity, it generates clean water.
In the area of climate change, Gates has embraced the often unpopular solution of nuclear energy as an alternative to fossil fuels.
The energy has to come from somewhere. You're giving up all coal, all natural gas, all oil.
That is a good example of both the fact that he isn't concerned about public opinion or popularity, but grounded in what he believes to be the data and the facts.
A Gates company called TerraPower was very close to building the world's first nuclear reactor fueled by actual nuclear waste in China. But progress was stopped in its tracks when Trump launched a trade war against China in 2018. No sooner was this vision put on hold than did Gates have a more urgent calling.
This is going to be era-defining.
And no one was in a better place to say, "I told you so."
The most urgent invention in the world right now is a vaccine that prevents you from getting COVID-19.
The fact that he has such depth across so many areas makes him unique in being able to take on the current pandemic.
He has now spent 20 years learning about funding programs, talking to leading researchers on things like viruses, things like vaccines. Some of the programs in the Seattle area, including the Seattle flu study that caught some of the first COVID cases here, are things that have been funded out of the foundation.
So far, Gates has chipped in a total of $300 million and counting in the fight against coronavirus.
They're focused on detection, isolation, and treatment of the virus, and finding a vaccine.
This chapter in Bill's life has yet to be written, and could have the highest stakes he's had to face yet.
His intellectual intensity sometimes carries over to big expectations. But at the end of the day, the person he's toughest on is himself. If he doesn't figure out something that he thinks he should have figured out, he'll be disappointed in himself. It drives him. It motivates him. It gives him a sense of urgency to really make a difference. And I think that's one of his greatest attributes.